See your screen here.
Okay. Um, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us from. Yes, we're live, baby. Live, baby. Okay. So I just need to be sure everything is working the way we want it to. And yeah. All right. So Habib, good evening. How you doing, brother? How you doing, man? How you doing, my Oga? How you doing, my
Yeah, good evening, Emmanuel. Good evening, everyone. I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I've been
How was the day?
man. It's quite hectic, quite hectic. Like
Yeah,
I said, man,
sorry.
it's the kind of hectic we
Thank
live
God.
for, so we can't complain.
Exactly.
So how about you? How is everything? I hope you're good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I am. Thank you. Mine wasn't too bad, but uh, lots of personal development, and and I think yeah, that's pretty much everything that I was able to work on today.
Yeah, nice, nice, nice. And I think we are getting like a little window to rest after like a lot of back-to-back painting.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we
think
had a couple of mhm.
the
I mean, the peak seasons, it's kind of like dropping at this
yeah,
point,
yeah.
but
Please
I'm pretty
go
sure in the next
carry on, carry on.
no, I was gonna say like uh the same thing's gonna happen like in the first quarter of 2026. There's
Yeah,
gonna be like
so
high demand for
yeah, but
engagement and
I'm,
testing.
I'm, I'm, I feel for those that are going to be maybe coming across this recording later on YouTube, or for those who are joining us live that might also be interested in paintings, please, the Nigerian man in me,
Yeah,
like, please, people should bring plenty painters for us so that my company can get bonus, December bonus, so I can do dirty December.
yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Yeah, I think we started a bit late tonight, so I want to sincerely apologize for that to to our viewers, right? For those who are joining us live. Sorry about that. It's not deliberate. Sometimes some situations are just beyond your power, but we're able to resolve all the technical issues, and we're here, so we are just going to try as much as possible to get straight to business, right? But before then, right, for those who do not know who I am, my name is Emmanuel Akobia Jibolu, and I am a very fine boy, right? I'm a proud Christian, right? And yeah, I'm a proud Christian. I work as a penetration tester here at Cyber Plural, which is a cyber security company here in the city of Abuja, Nigeria. Right, and I have on this call with me my beloved colleague Habib. So I'll just leave Habib to introduce himself.
yeah. I mean, good evening, everyone. First, just like Emmanuel mentioned earlier, we sincerely apologize for the delay. And like Emmanuel, I'm also a penetration tester, and we are both on the same team here at Cyberblue, where we handle customer pen test engagement and security assessments for different you know a brief intro about myself. So
Yeah,
hopefully today's session is going to be fun. We can touch a lot of cover a lot of ground.
yeah, very, very true, man. And for those who might not know Cyber Plural, so Cyber Plural is what we call an MSSP, which stands for Managed Security Service Provider. And in layman terms, what that means is we do everything and anything cyber security from offensive security down to defensive security, down to governance, risk and compliance, cloud security, API testing, anything, Sha. This is the Nigerian man in me talking, right? Everything cybersecurity. Just we are always available to help you meet your security needs. So please always feel free to reach out to us. A quick Google search about of the keyword cyber plural is definitely going to point you in the right direction. You can get our phone number. You can call us anytime, right? Because we run a 24/7 SOC. So yes, any time of the day, feel free to call us, and we'll be more than happy to respond to you. And also, you could send us a mail at hello@cyberplural, and the the sales and marketing team will be more than excited to walk you through how we can help you meet your security need. And for those who might want to come physically to our office, yes, just check us up on Google. Just search us on Google, and you see our office address in the city of Abuja. And if you should put it in your navigation or your map application, it will lead you directly to our office. So we maintain an open office, and you can come check us out, and we'll be more than happy to meet your security needs. Yes, with all of the marketing stuff out of the way, yes, Habib, let's get to business. So today we are doing
Okay, let's
mass
go.
assignment vulnerability in API.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. So should we just get to reading, or you have like maybe you have a story you want to tell us before we get to the part we got?
Uh,
Yeah.
hmm. I mean, now we can read the excerpt, first, and then we can, have a dialogue, about possible, you know, incidents that we've seen when it comes to mass assignment and real application security testing. So I hope that's okay with you.
All right. Since my boss has said that, let's get to business, guys. So yeah, mass assignments very
Okay.
basically. So mass assignments, also known as auto binding, can inadvertently create hidden parameters. It occurs when software frameworks automatically bind request parameters to field on an internal object. Mass assignments may therefore result in the application supporting parameters that were never intended to be processed by the developer. Hmm. Okay, so yes, my boss, over to you, sir.
All right. Okay. So, Emmanuel mentioned, and like it's laid out here in the excerpt, it says like, mass assignment is, it's also known as auto binding, but if I were to like, describe it in my own terms, it's pretty much similar to what we have here, but I would say that mass assignment is when the API server blindly accepts any user input that could, alter sensitive object properties. And a very, you know, common example of this is when you have an endpoint that, let's say, for example, it is an endpoint that is restricted only to certain users. For example, just admin for administrative users. And then you have a low-level user who comes to this endpoint and then, takes one of the properties or one of the properties um, you know that gives that gives an administrator the admin privilege. In this case, it's going to be like a parameter, like a very typical example of these parameters, which are also like object properties, is the admin parameter or is admin, or you could see it, things like is underscore admin. So these are the typical formats of the admin you know parameter, which in this case is the object property. So if there's no proper authorization and validation going on, a low-level user or just a normal user can go to the administrative endpoint that they're restricted from accessing by default, and then when they take or add the the admin parameter, which is the admin sorry, which is the object property, and then add it to their to the request. So if there's no proper authorization and validation going on in the API server in the backend, then the API could blindly or inadvertently assign the admin, you know, privilege to the low-level user. So this is a very common case when it comes to like mass assignment. And then the other thing is that mass assignment was a standalone vulnerability in the OWASP top 10 API security list for the 2019 version, but the updated version of the OWASP API security top 10 risks mass assignment has been consolidated um, what's its name again? Yeah, with excessive data exposure. So these two now form um, a new security risk on the OWASP API security top 10 for the current version, which is 2023, uh, called Boppler, which is broken object property level authorization. So I'm gonna hand over to Manuel to like add more to this and share a little bit of insights as well.
Yeah, man, I think you've done like excellent, like you've done really well in explaining our math assignment and also bringing like some context to it as well. Right? I think I'll just add a little bit to what you've said, right? So just like we have here, right? It's easy for people to also assume that I mean you can only like carry out math assignment for parameters that exist. So just like for example, the in the case Habib gave earlier on, usually I think one of my favorite place of exploiting this vulnerability is when I'm creating a new user on an application, right? So then maybe I have an idea, maybe and at the point of creating the user, you capture the request parameters through Bob Suite, and then you notice that there's either no parameter dictating the I mean if we are talking about a low level user group, right? So maybe there's no parameter specifying the user group, right? But then maybe at the point of creating a high level user, right? Or from forcing, because sometimes we also force for some of these parameters, right? I think that just like Abid mentioned, the one of the most common parameters we see for this is usually is admin, right? Yeah, so it's this okay, just for me to put better context so our audience can understand us. The parameter might not exist at the point of creating the user group, right? So usually when we are carrying out tests, we try as much as possible to create multiple user, at least maybe two or three, right? And then maybe first time we create the user, we try everything normal, we do everything normal, right? And then we inspect all the parameters, we inspect the request, notice the normal behavior and everything, and then after that we try to use the what is it called? We try to use the user um, normally, right, as every other person is going to use it. And we also inspect the parameters, everything that is being communicated between the client side and the server side, right? And usually, maybe at some point, you might notice that there's a check for the users group, right? And then you might see as part of the parameter, right, you might see is admin set to false, right? So after that, I might just go back to try to create a new user, and this time around attach this parameter that was not attached initially, right? And then I set it to true, or I set it to one, or whatever is going to be denoted as true, right? And then I send it, and in some situations, right, you just might be able to create an administrative user like that, right? So what that speaks to what this is saying here when it says can inadvertently create hidden parameters. So sometimes these parameters can be hidden, right? Maybe at the point of creating a user, you might not see any parameter relating to or specifying if a user should be admin or not, right? Because the assumption is anybody who is creating an account automatically is a normal user, right? But at some point in the application, there might be a need to differentiate the user group, right? Whether admin or whatever other user group that they have out there, right? That is one way. Now that is us speaking to like user privilege and privilege escalation stuff. Some other time you just might be able to guess, right? There are some parameters that you from time you start noticing, right, across application, right? And right, you notice them across applications, right? And you notice that oh, they have like some specific use, right? They give some specific attribute, they give some specific privilege to that particular account or to that particular user group. Now, in the context of the application that you are testing, right, this parameter might not exist. But if the framework, right, or the software, the application is not looking out for some of these things or is not handling these things, even despite the fact that this parameter is not in the application, if you should mass assign it, that means you attach it to your request and you send it to the application either through a post request or through a put request or through a patch request, right? I'm sure you guys can relate to this because we explained some of these web requests at the very beginning of this, right? And then you're able to attach it to your user group. You just might be able to fool the application to perform actions, right, based on this new assign this newly assigned parameter, right? So it can be a lot of things, right? Even for e-commerce application, you just might be able to attach something new, right? You might maybe there, I mean, there's a lot. Depending on the type of application, right? You just might be able to assign something that is going to aid you in doing something that the developer did not think of, or something that the application was not expecting when it was something that was not thought of when the application was being created. So that's what is meant by this last line. Mass assignment may therefore result in the application supporting parameters that were never intended to be processed by the developer. Yeah. So you can mass assign something that exists, right? But it's not supposed to be available to your user group. Yes, and at the same time, you can also mass assign something that does not even exist in the application, and then the application is going to be pulled to what um to carry out of certain privileges based on this new parameter. So I think that's just what I'm going to add to what Habib has said.
Yeah, well said, Emmanuel. I think you expounded on, further on what mass assignment is. And I actually enjoyed the examples you mentioned as well. And, I think the other thing that like I wanted to share is that, you know, even I think, yeah, sorry. I think the thing that you mentioned that actually resonates with me is, you know, a very good place to discover, all these parameters that you could probably use to test for mass assignment is mostly in the registration endpoint.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good spot. And another place that I also like to look is mostly uh, you know public forums in web applications, like for example WordPress. You have this forum where you can send comments, where users can add comments or
yeah,
queries, for example. These are also some very you know uh, good spots where you can find parameters that you could test for mess assignments. And the other thing is that um, you know, when you discover these parameters, like you said, I think the one of the things that I also like to do is anywhere that I see a parameter and it's kind of given this information that says you're restricted, or something that I learned recently from a bug bounty hunter is that you need to look for the no-nos, like the no's basically.
mm,
And like you mentioned earlier, like and more recently, testing fintech applications and sandbox. I think other parameters like mode, you know when you have when you're in the sandbox, and then there is an option for you to go live into to the live mode, but you need to um before you can do that, you need to complete your KYC, which is like know your customer, the process of that before you can go live. But the parameter that allows you to switch from test mode
Mm,
to like live mode
yeah.
is mostly like test, and then you can try things like that as well, because by default it's gonna be in the test mode, and
Mm.
that is basically like a no, kind of like a restriction, and then you'd want to try if you can bypass that. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's it.
Thanks, thanks. I mean, I think this one, I know like for this, there's going to be like a lot of things you're going to say about this, right?
Yeah, lots of
So
examples.
I'm trying to make sure we stick to the material. But I mean, because as you're just
Yeah,
brilliantly explaining, some other things I've also done
came in as well.
doing here popped up in my head. Just like very brilliant example you gave with the forum application, right? So let's say
Hmm.
if we put applications like maybe Discord into as a case, right, as a scenario
Yeah,
case scenario, right? Usually in Discord there are like different user groups, right? So maybe if you're inspecting
correct.
the API, right? Maybe you're testing the API and then you notice that maybe there's like five user group, right? And then there's probably going to be a parameter that is specifying the user group that you belong to. So you can see maybe something like user class, user type, and then it's going to be maybe something like normal, and then maybe the other user group is going to be mode, maybe the other group is going to be admin, maybe the other group is going to be good boys, whatsoever it is, right? I mean, depending, just like I said, depending on the application context, the context of the application that you are testing, right? So once you've noticed these other groups, you can just get your request and try to alter your user group to this other user group. So maybe I could change mine from user group normal to maybe user group admin, right? To maybe user group mode, to maybe user group good boy, right? To maybe user group hacker, maybe user group elite, and send the request to see how the server is going to, or the application is going to handle the request, right? And usually you want to do this through, I mean, you sometimes I can be very paranoid. I still even try this with some get request, right? Maybe yeah, but sometimes right, usually you want to try with like request that is changing something on the server. And I think like just like you mentioned, a good place to check this is like registration. And another good place to check for this kind of vulnerabilities like profile functions that edit the application. So maybe like profile updates, profile edits, all those kind of stuff, right? You just those are like some hotspot places that you want to look out um, check out when it comes to this particular vulnerability. So yeah, I think
Yep.
do you have any
Um.
other thing to say or we should get back to the material?
No, no.
Okay.
No, let's proceed further.
Okay. Okay, so identifying hidden parameters. So since mass assignment creates parameters from object field, you can often identify these hidden parameters by manually examining objects returned by the API. Right, so for example, consider a patch API user request, which enables users to update their username and email and includes the follow JSON. Right, so we have username, winner, email, then winner at example.com. Then now this is just like we said, this is like a profile update or profile edit function, right? Through a patch request, right? Then a concurrent gets API user 123 request returns the following JSON. So ID 123, name John Doe, email is john at example.com, and his admin is false. So this may indicate the hidden ID and his admin parameter are bound to the internal user object alongside the updated username and email parameter. Yes, so in essence, what this is saying is most time when you are updating maybe when you are creating a new user, when you are updating a user account or whatever it is, right? Mostly, let me say most of your updates requests, maybe patch, puts, post, whatever it is, you might not be able to see a lot of these parameters, right? A good number of time, you get to see these other parameters, these hidden parameters, the ones you didn't get to see at the point of registration, the ones you are not seeing at the point of updating the application, right? You are going to see it in like the get, you are going to see it in like maybe a request that is getting like the full user profile. So let's say, for example, one place I usually get like most of the parameters I try to mass assign when it comes to financial applications, maybe fintech applications, maybe the request that is calling the user profile at the point of login, right? So usually, right, depending on how the developers go about this, I've seen cases of developers calling all these parameters, right? So you see like a lot of you see a lot of like parameters, you see the user's account balance. Yes, you trust me, you try to mass assign account balance as well. Just yes, you try to yes, very, and trust me, that's like a very, if it should work, it's a very good finding, right? Because that way somebody can actually get access to funds that they can. So just like we mentioned earlier on, like depending, there's a lot of context to this thing, right? Depending on the type of application you're testing, when you start seeing some parameters that the application is returning to you, you want to see what is going to happen if you try to update these parameters by yourself. So for getting back to context, right? For a fintech application, you see returning. You see a lot of time you see like the application returning maybe the user's PIN hash, the user's password hash, the user's account privilege. Maybe if it's a saving application, it returns the user's saving balance, the user's main application balance, the users maybe the person belongs to a saving group, the users saving group, like a lot of information that you might not know exists at the point of creating the account and at the point of or at the point of updating the account. So now usually once you have that request, you might just have it somewhere in your box queues, right? Maybe your repeater, and then you can start picking some of these requests one after the other, taking it to another request that allows you to patch or to update the application, and then you start testing this one after the other. So yes, yeah, I think that's what this is talking about. And just like and yes, also trust me, I've tried mass assignment on ID, right? Mass assigning the ID parameter might just lead to an account takeover, right? If you're able to if you're able to update the user's ID, or maybe you're able to update, yeah, I mean there are cases like this. I know, like we've had like a lot of stories to tell. I mean, we've used chain mass assignments with some broken authentication, right, to completely take over
Yeah.
applications, accounts, right, in financial applications, right, and some very, very interesting situations, right. First of all, you might be able to access maybe a user's account, right? Maybe you're able to access functions that belong to that particular user account. And then after doing that, you just discover that, okay, I I can in my own account, right? In my own context, I can actually update my email, right? Maybe the application allows you to update your email address, right? Now you already know that there's a case of what is it called? There's a case of broken authentication, right? Or failed authentication. So you might just try to update your email and probably your password or your PIN. Trust me, we've done all of this and it has worked very, very mind blowing, right? And then you switch the ID to that. Maybe one way or the other, you're able to get the user's ID, right? You switch the user's ID, you switch your ID to that particular user ID, and then you leave the email as an email that you have access to, and probably the password, right? And yeah, maybe, I mean, you don't even need to update the password in that situation. Then you send it, it gets accepted. Once the user's email has been updated to an email that you have access to, all you need to do is to trigger the forgot password function, and then the new password is going to be sent to your mail, and bam, complete account takeover from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good example, Emmanuel.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah. I mean, I can't. I mean, that has worked like time and time and time over, right? So usually
Hmm.
math assignment, a good number of time we've been able to chain it to like broken authentication or field of authentication vulnerabilities, and it's always very interesting. Right, and I
Yep,
think
it is.
there's this scenario like one definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if Abib remembers this scenario. Right, you in that particular test, we there's the user ID, right? Getting the proper user ID can also be like a hassle, right? Because not everybody uses ID 123. If somebody is using ID 123, please refer them to us. They need some security
Yeah,
training, right? So usually people nowadays people use hashes, right? And which is very hard to guess. It's a lot more complex and in a lot of scenario, right? Um, it's definitely more difficult, right? So yeah, at the point of
sure.
creating the account, we're able to get an ID, right? But after that, I couldn't get the ID again, subsequent requests, right? So it was
Yeah,
the ID I got at the very beginning that I was able to
I
use
remember
for
this.
math assignment. Later on, deep down into the application, I was like, oh God, thank God I didn't miss this request. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very well said, Emmanuel. And I think the other thing that, that makes mass assignments more um easy to like carry out is, I think, the the main culprit, I would say, is like excessive data exposure, to be honest.
Mm, yeah.
I mean, when you know just like in the example of the registration endpoint, for example, and then you have all these parameters that were hidden on the presentation layer, which is the user interface. But on the application level or the API level, you're seeing all these parameters that are not, visible to the eye. And I think just having these, an attacker seeing all these things, uh, encourages them to, like, go after, a mass assignment vulnerability. So I think that's the more reason why, the mass assignment was consolidated with excessive data exposure,
Yeah.
which makes the new vulnerability in the latest edition of the OWASP API Top 10 risks for 2023. So,
Yeah, very correct one. Yeah. A good number of time, except for like some special situations where you're able to assign something that doesn't even, a parameter that doesn't even
mhm,
exist on the application. You're only able
exist.
to assign parameters that you get to see from excessive data exposure, right? Cases maybe the application is returning NIN when there's no need for it, the application is returning BVN when there's no need for it, and all those kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, true.
Okay. So yeah, moving on. Mm, time is flying now.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, testing mass assignment vulnerability. Okay, so to test whether you can modify the enumerated is admin parameter value, add it to the patch request. So just like the previous example which we read from, right? This is your patch request for API users, right? We only have username and we only have an email in the parameter, but then we get to discover ID and is admin false. So in this case, we might just change it, switch it to true, right? So building up on that in the next page, so we say to test whether you can modify the enumerated is admin parameter value, add it to the patch request. So you add it to the normal request, which is supposed to contain just username and email. So is admin is false, right? In addition, send a patch request with an invalid is admin parameter, right? Because just like said earlier on, you want to test for like no node, right? You just want to enter something random and see
Yeah.
how the way the application is going to react or the way the application is going to behave to this. So if the application behaves differently, so you send just like I said, usually we do everything normally and we notice the way the application behaves, then we start doing things abnormally to see how the application is going to be. behave. That way we can tell whether if something is going right or something is going wrong. Right? So if the application behaves differently, this may suggest that the invalid value impacts the query logic, but the valid value doesn't. So this may indicate that the parameter can be successfully updated by the user. So you can then send a patch request with the admin parameter value set to true to try and exploit this vulnerability, which is what you see here, right? So if the admin value in the request is bound to the user object without adequate validation or sanitization, the user winner may be incorrectly granted administrative privileges, right? To determine whether this is the case, browse the application as winner to see whether you can access admin functionality. Very, very straightforward. Very simple um, um, exploits, right? But very, very dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It is very well said, Emmanuel. Very well said.
So yeah, we have our lab now. So yeah, Habib, do you have anything to say before we get to the lab, or we should just get
Uh,
to business?
yeah, I, yeah. I think in the previous slide or in the previous section, the other thing, like sometimes when you're testing these parameters, let's say like you're arbitrarily, you know, guessing, you know, a parameter that that doesn't exist. For example, let's use the example of like this is ad is admin parameter. Depending on the programming language or how the developer or the the data format that is used or the casing style, uh, most times, let's say there's an admin parameter, but it's just that the format or the casing is not like this that we can see here, like is admin.
Yeah.
You know, you would you would not want to give up
Mm.
by just testing this type of casing. Sometimes the developer might use an unconventional casing, like we have like snake case, we have camel
Camel
case,
case.
and
Yeah.
we have yeah, all these standard casing style that we're all familiar to. But there's some scenarios where developers might just use their own style, or just randomly use a different case. Like for example, instead of like is, you can see like the is like lowercase, and then the the admin, just the A uh, character is, or the A alphabet or letter
Yeah.
is capitalized, and everything else is some developers might use things like is like everything is literally lowercase.
Mm.
Some might add like uh, an underscore between them, which makes, if an underscore is added between is admin, then that is like the snake case.
Yes. Mm.
And I think this is the camel case, right?
Yes. Exactly.
If I'm correct, if I remember
Yes.
correctly, yeah.
Ah.
So you yeah, so sometimes you don't want to just give up at the very first casing style that you attempted. You'd want to try every possible ways. And I think this also like speaks to the parts where it says like where is it, um I think it says here like you would want to send a patch request with an invalid is admin parameter value. But sometimes you'd want to try, the key itself, which is admin, like, trying different casing style and formats. And you never know, like the app might actually, and based on the response and the behavior, you can tell that, okay, which one is the valid or the correct, you know, format for the object parameter you're trying to, exploit. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Very
think
well. Very well said, Abib. Very well said. Yeah. Thank you, Abib. Right. This is 4 minutes to close time, right? So I'm just one.
yeah,
I think we should hit the brakes. Yeah. So in the next stream, we'll
yeah,
pick up from the lab, right? So we can spend it because I really want us to spend enough time on the lab and not just like quickly get like a solution. I want us to explain like a lot of things during the lab. So let's not just. I mean, it's something we can do in 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, right? But I want us to spend enough time so we can provide better context and as well expand our audience mind, right? So yeah, I think we'll just take a
Correct.
break here
Sounds good.
tonight. And so thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We really appreciate you guys for always turning up and joining us. And we hope you guys, we believe you guys are getting value from this, and we hope to keep giving you guys value. So yes, please, if you have any cybersecurity need, feel free to reach out to us at hello@cyberpura.com, or call us on our phone number. You can just Google us, and you get all this information. A big shout out to the management team of Cyberpreneur for giving boys like us this opportunity to come out here, just catch fun, try to vibe, chat, and share experience. You guys rock, right? Thank you. So the very next episode, guys, please keep hacking, keep enjoying, and see you in the very next episode of Hack Wednesday. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you all, and see you guys next episode.
Yeah.